Don't worry. I had no intentions of forgetting about Spider-Man. Hadouken! What's good, everyone? My name is Sen. Welcome back to Crouch Block. And for today's video, we're going to be continuing our coverage of Spider-Man the Animated Series Season 1 with Episode 2 and eventually 3, The Spider Slayers. I would have loved to have done Episode 2 and 3 in one video, but I figured this video would be long enough with just the one, and I have no problems with splitting it up into two parts. With that said, I would have loved to have done this all in one. I would just be at my computer all day. These episodes in particular give me immense amounts of nostalgia because they were on an old VHS that I used to have when I was a kid. The other two episodes that were on the same VHS were related to Kraven the Hunter, giving me a particular fondness for his character. I never really thought about what episodes were actually pulled from the show on the VHS itself, but 3 out of the 4 episodes are from Season 1, and the final Kraven episode is all the way in Season 4. Regardless, I'm rambling. With as much nostalgia and as much as I've watched these 2 episodes, they're extremely far from heavy hitters in the series for me. I'll throw more of my nitpicks with things as a whole at the end of the video. Hey Parker, those episodes you're always talking about, I don't like them.
Well, I'm sorry.
That's a little better.
But for now, let's crack into episode 2. In the first episode, Night of the Lizard, our focus was revolving entirely around the lizard and his ambitions. The sympathetic light we can focus on Dr. Connors, but the action element, while forced into the show because you need points of action in superhero cartoons, were very much a byproduct of the narrative, and the lizards colliding with Spider-Man was just a result of one trying to stop or help the other. However, in this episode, we have one prime target, that being Spider-Man. The intro scene in itself is purely recon, not that we know that from jump, and as much as I'm not overly in love with these episodes, there is a couple of crucial things that these episodes do. Let's work a little out of order here. We have both Spencer and Alistair Smythe, father and son engineers slash scientists. While not inherently evil, Spencer's enlisted his genius to one Norman Osborn, a absolute staple character in the Spider-Man mythos. But if somehow you don't know who this is, I won't spoil where this character's arc leads him to, but for now, Norman Osborn is the owner slash co-founder of Oscorp alongside Otto Octavius. I wonder if that name will become important. Oscorp is one of the largest tech companies in the world that branches out to many different avenues in both tech and scientific development. Norman is tasking Spencer to, let's say, apprehend Spider-Man, but this raises a question to me because Norman Osborn in his own respect is a genius. With the things that we found out that Norman develops, I find it hard to believe that he wouldn't be able to find his own methods of killing Spider-Man. Now you may ask, Sen, why does Norman want Spencer to kill Spider-Man for him?
You want a trial separation already. I understand, but I'm hurt.
Enough talk.
A fantastic question, my dear viewer. We'll get there. For now, Spencer has developed what are referred to as spider seekers, essentially to test his targeting computers just to make sure he can actually find Spider-Man in the first place. Norman's under the impression that he failed to kill Spider-Man, but Spencer says forget about it, cut. There's levels to this shit. I would say this intro scene is extremely decent, showcasing the fluidity of the animation. Comparing this to something like Batman the Animated Series Season 1, the animation showcase in regards to Spider-Man is a dramatic step up, and it's pretty cool to see how far animation has come in the long run. Batman's animated work became a lot more fluid and dynamic too with the changing of its art style, but something like Spider-Man didn't have to go through an art style change to make it more dynamic. Now, this isn't me bashing Batman. I absolutely love Batman. I just appreciate the consideration taken to the animation when they chose to make this show. As I was saying, Spencer said there's levels to this shit and puts the namesake of the episode on display front and center, the Spider Slayer. Well, more specifically, the Black Widow. Now don't touch that dial because we'll be right back after this commercial break. Hey there, viewer. Did you know that if you hit the subscribe button, it subscribes you to this channel? What does subscribing do? Well, I'm glad you asked. If you subscribe to this here channel, it puts the videos I make on Crouch Block pop into your feed when I post them. But it's hard for me to post a ton because making videos like this takes a fair bit of effort, so if you want YouTube to give you a holler when I do post, you can also turn on post notifications so YouTube can give you an Amber Alert on when a new video's up.
Don't let your dreams be dreams.
But Sen, my lust for content that you're a part of can't just be satiated just by things that you post on Crouchblock. Well, my dear viewer, funny you mention that, cause I don't just work on this channel. You see, I have absolutely no life and work on 3 other channels.
3 other channels?
That's right. If you want to see me chat about one of my many passions in the shape of fighting games, you can do so by visiting my main channel, where not only do we play fighting games, but we talk about the pathway to improving, hot button topics, and the psychology of fighting games. Well, Sen, that's great, but that's not enough either.
It's not enough.
Oh, don't worry, you greedy little bitch. If you guys want to see me collaborate with one of my very best friends where we do Let's Plays and talk about the deepest, most life-concerning things like The Matrix and The Matrix, you can subscribe to DualShock for good vibes and good times.
I stop bad guy. Name Bond.
James Bond.
James Bond.
And don't worry, if you subscribe right now to Crouchblock, my main channel, and DualShock, I'll throw in my VODs channel absolutely free. Just don't tell the IRS.
I'm crazy enough to take on Batman, but the IRS? No, thank you.
That was weird. We pick things back up at the Daily Bugle, where JJ's making some big moves in the shape of a charity ball that the Bugle, and by extension of the Bugle, Jonah himself is hosting, and by further extension has the Hardy name attached to the event as well. Old girl Felicia said we're gonna need a photographer on the job too, and because JJ's dropped enough money on this shit already, he's throwing Peter in the game.
That's why I'm sending my very best photographer.
Interesting thing to note is that Felicia and Peter already know each other because they attend the same college, allegedly. Out of what it seems like, Ladyface is attracted to our boy, and needless to say, the feeling's mutual.
Hey, me too, brother. Get in line.
Parker, your mouth's open.
This is where things get a little convoluted, because as we kick things back on over to Oscorp, we're seeing what appears to be the finishing touches on the Spider Slayer. But Eddie Brock is there to cover the capture of Spider-Man, which to me would imply there's a public knowledge of this, which seems extremely bizarre to me. Spencer does glance over all this by saying, with media coverage, this is all legit, on the up and up. I'm not sure how true that is, but with enough money, anything can fly, I guess. The real meat of the scene is the motivations of Spencer and why he's helping Osborn to begin with. All in all, it's for the facilities and the funding of Alistair's potential new means of transportation. You see, it was Spencer's fault that Alistair ended up in a wheelchair due to an explosion that happened at one of their old labs. I can appreciate the guilt that he feels and the extents he's willing to go to pay his son back. In a roundabout way, it reminds me something of Mr. Freeze, you know, the doing things that are down a wrong path in the pursuit of doing something good, but that's about as far as the parallels go. As a follow-up to this somewhat touching moment, we get the actual reveal as to who is pulling all the strings. The man behind all this is none other than Wilson Fisk, aka the Kingpin. Wilson Fisk runs a worldwide criminal empire, but Spider-Man has been causing a lot of problems for him on his home turf in New York. The reason why Osborn is even attached to this in the first place is because Fisk gave Osborn the funding that assumedly was used as the grounds to kick off his company in the first place. If Osborn doesn't have Spider-Man stopped, the Kingpin will get Oscorp as collateral. Not to harp too much on the logistics of all this, but I'm curious as to how much the loan actually was, because from my understanding, Oscorp is an extremely successful company. So I just kind of find it hard to believe that Oscorp would have not gross the money to actually pay back the loan in the first place without having to deal with any of this Spider-Man business. But I'm just nitpicking. Obviously enough, this scene is just exposition and to show off that there's some sort of chain of command going on here. Smythe is working for Osborn, Osborn is working for Fisk. Anyways, it's party time. The Bugle X Hardy charity ball is underway, and I gotta say, this is awfully classy. Not that it really matters at the end of the day, but I would have liked to have known what the charity was actually for. But fuck all the charity nonsense, cause we see our boy looking all fresh and fitted out, and my man's Peter has to really be a stud, cause Felicia is down bad for our boy. Peter is about as good of a dude as you can be, and he brings his Aunt May to the event with him, which is incredibly sweet, and Felicia thinks so too. To get a little granular with things, Flash doesn't seem to recognize Peter's aunt here, but in some continuities, Flash and Peter are childhood friends, but it seems to be the case that they aren't here. On the back of that, I think I would really like a version of Spider-Man where Peter and Flash are actually really good friends in childhood, or maybe used to be, and there's a version of May Parker that recognizes how close Peter and Flash used to be, but that's getting into the territory of fanfiction. Felicia can't contain her thirst any longer and steals away Peter for a dance, but our boy Peter is a little apprehensive because he's on the clock after all. But I mean, come on bruh, are you really gonna turn down a fine show like that? Sorry, hi, nitpick boy here, but I was always curious as to why they drew Felicia's face in this manner. It looks like she's feeling some type of awkward around this encounter, but it's strange because she was the one that initiated the dance in the first place. To me, it would make a lot more sense if Peter was the one that asked her to dance, and this animation here would imply that she didn't like him all that much. But it's strange because she's openly infatuated with him. Now, the gears can get turning in this episode a little bit more in a very convoluted way. Believe it or not, Flash Thompson has a plan. A very strange plan, but a plan nonetheless. He, for some reason, had a feeling that Peter would steal Felicia away from him, so he rented a Spider-Man suit to press Peter at the function. Obviously, this is meant to throw a monkey wrench in the plot to capture Spider-Man, because the Spider Seekers are already in hot pursuit, and the Spider Slayer isn't far behind. Back at the party, Peter and Felicia wrap up their dance, and she lays one on the old spider goat.
Yeah, get that shit, Peter.
But of course, things can't go too smoothly for our mans, cause he gets interrupted in more ways than just one. Flash pulls up as Spider-Man trying to press Peter to make him look like a bitch. I'm not really sure the end game here. I just really like the shot of the Spider Slayer lurking in the background like, yeah, you talk that shit. And all this just made me realize that if Flash wasn't such a bitch and didn't get spotted by the Spider Seekers, Smythe would have come up empty-handed and our boy could have just had a nice night with Felicia, but no, some bullshit always gotta be happening. The Spider Slayer crashes the party thinking the Flash is the real deal and is looking to scoop him up.
You're ruining everything!
I'm not sure what Felicia thinks this is actually going to accomplish here. I mean, that thing probably weighs a literal ton. Peter, being the quick change master, pulls up and takes on the Spider Slayer's attention. The Spider Slayer really brings down the house on this one and scoops up what it thinks is Spider-Man, but of course, spoilers, it's not. Listen, I know that Peter had to dip out on her, but I love that Aunt May is just posted up in someone else's crib just watching TV. JJ rolls up like, what's actually good? And it's Eddie Brock on the news looking to unmask Spider-Man.
You've got the wrong buzz!
Yep, they got Flash in all the commotion. The real Spider-Man pulls up with JJ and Aunt May, and JJ knows that he's going to have to make a redaction on the news broadcast, and how Eddie Brock really just screwed over the Bugle by airing false information.
Which means Eddie Brock just made my whole company look like jerks.
Not hard to do.
Excuse me! That poor Thompson boy is in big trouble. Shouldn't somebody try to save him?
Aunt May is definitely spitting here because somebody should really go save this Flash guy, but things ain't running so smooth on the side of the bad guys either. The Kingpin, or maybe Oscorp's personal task force, pulls up in the middle of all of this to take out Spider-Man. When this was all pitched to Spencer and Alistair, they were under the impression that Spider-Man was going to be handed over to the proper authorities. Osborn's playing ignorant here, but Spencer knows better. Super underrated line here.
Hey, I got First Amendment rights.
We just amended them.
To be honest though, it kind of really looks like they were just keeping guard over Thompson because they weren't really doing anything, and Jesus Christ, he just ripped a solid steel door off the fucking hinges. Dumb and Dumber over here get taken out in about 2 seconds flat.
What's going on out there?
Dunno. Better finish him off and get out of here.
Okay, so they were just standing guard? Either that or Spider-Man got over here so fast that he set a land speed record. The task force does name drop Kingpin alerting Spencer, but it's business time and we gotta start up the Black Widow so Spider-Man can actually have some competition here. In tandem with that, Osborn starts up some of the Spider Seekers alongside things to swing the tides in his favor. But as a result, the explosion of one of the Spider Seekers sets the lab ablaze. And as everyone is evacuating, Osborn reminds Spencer of their agreement. So Spencer stays behind to hopefully settle things in his favor. And the minute Spencer's in control, the tides really do start to turn. I mentioned this in the last upload, but Spider-Man will always run out of webbing at the least opportune times. And this is in fact one of those times. Right now, the strategy is to create space so he can reload, but the Spider Slayer got its namesake for a reason. Alright, how did Flash even get up here? Regardless, as a parallel from earlier, the Spider Slayer has the wrong target here, which allows the real deal a moment to get an idea to take this thing out. What I don't know is why Flash didn't just take off the mask, but hey, that's writing for you. Just before the Spider Slayer can take out Flash, Spider-Man gets the catch of the day, plunging the Black Widow into the acid that was used earlier to pierce its outer shell down below. This is also paired with Spider-Man putting some of his web cartridges in the Widow's propulsion system, and it's curtains for a mechanical menace, at least for now. I actually really like this scene between Spider-Man and Flash. Flash really looks up to Spider-Man. After all, he's a superhero. How could you not?
I always hoped that when the chips were down, I'd be like you. If anyone finds out, Felicia, Parker, you won't say anything, will you?
No, but now you know what kind of trouble this costume attracts.
But even though these heroes inspire others to do the right thing and inspire people to be like them, the trouble that is attracted to the heroes is not something the normal person may think about. We end things at Oscorp on a real sour note with a unfortunately very nice parallel. The reason Spencer wanted to work with Osborn is due to the guilt that he felt by a direct result of what caused his son to be in a wheelchair, and it was all caused and tied to an explosion at their old lab. But now things come to a terribly full circle with an explosion at Oscorp taking Spencer's life. This leaves Alistair to work with an evil he doesn't want to reach the ends he desires. Unfortunately, things can't end cleanly on anyone's side here. Eddie Brock is absolutely getting chewed out by JJ for actually a pretty good reason, but this isn't exactly Eddie's fault either. Eddie was the one called in by Spencer to cover Spider-Man's capture, so this could all be some form of legit, but it's not Eddie's fault they got the wrong guy. Obviously, they would have to redact the information of Flash being Spider-Man because that could put him in a lot of danger, and JJ's place is trashed as a result of all of this. Eddie just happens to be in the crossfire on this one, and he loses his job at the Bugle as a result of all of this. And man, everybody's getting it. Flash is getting chewed out by Felicia because he's an idiot, and Peter gets an earful because in Felicia's eyes, he's a coward and didn't come to rescue her. He had to dip out on her as Peter so he could pull up as Spider-Man. But things didn't end for Peter on a completely poor note here, because Aunt May's okay and she's happy he's okay too. Aunt May low-key kind of batshit, because with all the commotion, she had a really good time. But hey, beats being back home, I guess. The real wrap-up of this episode is, as we were saying earlier, Alistair being left in the wake of the destruction of the lab that they were in and ruminating in the fact that his father is gone. In the midst of his grieving, Wilson Fisk pulls up to take Alistair's anger and manipulate him into directing it in a way that benefits him and placing it at Spider-Man. He does so in only a few words, but man, this guy Fisk is a smooth talker, thus forming a new tainted partnership and ending the episode. Obviously, this partnership comes from a place of ignorance, because if Alistair knew that Osborn was working for the Kingpin, Alistair would want the Kingpin dead just as much as anyone else. But Kingpin cut off all forms of information before it could even get to him.
Suppose I provide the money to make new Spider Slayer robots.
Why should you do that?
So you can destroy the man who's responsible for your father's disappearance, Spider-Man.
The manipulation here is simple but very effective. Obviously, we have a whole second part to this episode that we'll get to, but I figure this video is already long enough. I really like this episode a fair bit, no surprise here, but not as much as something like Night of the Lizard because of the emotional undertones that something like that episode carries. The biggest thing in all this is that it shows that there's layers to all the crime business, with the Kingpin being at the very top of the ladder. But he does so in secrecy to the point where a lot of people don't know that the Kingpin even exists. All in all, I had a nice time revisiting this episode. Let me know if you guys want me to continue to cover the show in the comments down below. And if you guys want to go the extra mile in supporting me, you guys can drop a like and subscribe. And if you want to take an extra step further than that, you can share the channel with people that you think might vibe with it. Outside of covering Spider-Man, we have a couple things in the pipeline. Obviously, we have Code Lyoko on the side, and I just wrapped up the new Lego Batman game, and I'm for sure going to be doing some writing about that. And while small, there is a chance I could do some writing on Red Dead Redemption 2. Anyways, I'm gonna boogie out of here. Thanks for watching all. Just remember to keep on fighting and get ready for the next battle. I'll see y'all later. Peace.